All right, you folks.
Technology that's going to change everything. We've been living in a virtual reality for the past 6,000 years. I mean, look at cities like New York and London and Los Angeles. I mean, every nature has disappeared.
This is a talk from Terence McKenna called The World and Its Double. Like, I've been having a really hard time recently. And what that means to me is, basically I've been staring the devil into the eye. Right? Like, I've been staring the devil into the eye. And because I have done that, I am now somewhat exhausted. And that means I cannot give you every day, like, really serious exercises. Or every month. So I always suggest you just have to figure it out. As I have figured it out. For me, Terence McKenna, I really love him. He thinks a bit like me. He's a bit like evil and a bit like nice. He's like quite cynical and a bit arrogant. But, right? Not everything he says is really for me. And that's why, please, if you watch my content, don't try to copy me, because that will only end, well, maybe bad for you, because you will just be very miserable. Whatever you do, always try to make your own stuff. Because if you try to fake it, because you're trying to copy what I'm doing, you will realize that this is the road to damnation. Of course, you can always try whatever you want, but everybody will see that you are just a fake of what I'm doing. I'm not going to say much to it because it's going to be obvious. And in the end, it doesn't really matter because everybody has to do what they want to do. But what I think is that it's good to be unique. And for that you have to let it flow. And for that you have to understand. And to understand, you have to take the time. So you have to spend time thinking about stuff. And if you do that, if you constantly ask questions, you will get to quite funny conclusions. And some of them can be presented to you by people like Terence McKenna, or maybe by people like me, or maybe by people like Ramdas. But the thing is, the more time you spend listening to other people's experiences, the less experiences you are going to make, because you are clinging to the experience of listening to other people telling you about their experiences so that you can live through it. And that's exactly the problem parents are having, because they start living through their children. And once their children don't do anything anymore, they kind of stop living, right? So it's always good to have your own kind of hobbies. But maybe your parents never had the time, because they were busy with you and working. And now maybe for the first time in their life, they're like, whoa, now I'm free to do what I want because I've worked a lot. And then you're all the time clinging to them, so you also have to give your parents a bit space, man. Because some children, they're really selfish and they just keep sticking around their parents because they think they're helping them while they're just helping themselves. So yeah, children also should have the goal to be independent. And I, for instance, have worked really hard to get off my parents' back. But I also needed it for a while. Because nobody cared how I felt ever. And what I realized was that my family were the only people that were able to stick it out with me. So when you always, maybe you hate your family, but once you understand that most parents, I don't say all, right? Nobody's perfect, but they all try to do their best to love you in the way they can. And if maybe it has been an act of love to bring you to an orphanage rather than killing you, then just be grateful that they loved you enough to give you to other people, because they knew or thought that they wouldn't be any good to raise you. They could have just killed you, they could have thrown you into the garbage, but instead they had the courage to give up their child. So, right, what you have to do is you have to find love in yourself. Because nobody can ever love you as much as you can love yourself. At least nobody can really ever love you if you don't start loving yourself, because if you don't love yourself, you will always think you don't deserve it. And that in return, of course, means that you won't open up to people. So to open up to people, it often takes one person to show you how it's done, and then you have to do it yourself. So I can show you how to open up in front of the camera so that you can start opening up in front of other people, because you're probably spending too much time behind screens and you're so socially awkward that you don't know how to react to anybody and anything. So yeah. Oh yeah. If people should start getting a crush on me, congratulations, but please realize that I am already married, right? And so, anybody who starts hyping me and thinks I'm really sexy, you don't know me at all. I'm not really as sexy as you may think I am. I may look sexy to you from a distance, but if you would get a bit closer to me, you would realize that I'm a pretty tough guy and that I don't make it really easy for people to be with me. So the only reason that I can say I'm married is because my wife has earned the place next to my side as much as I have earned the place next to her side. Because we both worked really hard, because we wanted to love, and we did a lot of crazy things to get there. So you have to figure it out for yourself. How much you want to love is up to you. I want to love a lot, and I want to open up so that I can, in the end, instead of clinging to life in fear of death, I just want to let go. And to that, I really have to jump into the ocean and swim and start paddling as hard as I can, so that life becomes a series of surfing events intertwined with actively engaging into life. And to that, I do all kinds of crazy things. So if I'm stuck in a rut, I push myself to get going. And so I work hard to move on. And that's why if you meet a person and you connect with each other and you think this person is too good for you, there are some belief systems that you have to work with. Because why should she be too good for you if she likes spending time with you? Because you could be the best thing that ever happened to her and you wouldn't know it. Because you think you aren't worth it. Right? That was one of the hardest things for me, to accept that somebody could love me like she did. And then I started loving her in the same kind of way. Because I never knew anybody could feel for me in such a way. And so, yeah, don't be sad if I have no time to spend it like privately with you, because I already have the person that I want to spend like basically all of my time with, as much as I can spare. And so it's really not hard for me to sacrifice all of you, right? If I can be with her. But you know, some of that love, I'm sure, you know, can be shared, especially with children. But it's really important also to keep that kind of love safe, which means stay away from pornography. You know, if you want it, right, watch the content that is available. Never make your own. Because love is not for sale, and love is not to be like used by other people. And that's why pornography isn't real love. It's the desperate act of getting there without understanding that it actually ruins it. Because the more you focus, right? So you focus your love on one woman, means it's a stronger love than on lots of women, right? So if you focus your love on God, you know, a lot of love will sprout out of you. And so, in a way, I like being awake, because then I can focus more on God, which is that place of love in me, because God itself is just a word, isn't it? And it may create an image in you of like that old bearded man, but it has nothing to do with that. God is life. God is everything. And if you stop seeing God as a word or a man, you should just start worshiping God by living your life as best as you can and trying to figure it out for yourself. Like trying to truly live as the person that you are and accept yourself, and then learn to accept others. But first, probably accept yourself, because probably you've tried over accepting others and forgot to accept you. So now accept you as an expression of God, and from that you can like build, right? Sounds maybe a bit complicated, I don't know. It's just, you know, once you've heard it, I think you can do something with it. See, it's like the little things sometimes. Somebody gave me this as a present. It's like a coffee mix. It's like instant coffee with some kind of creamer, like non-dairy creamer. And somebody gave this to me and now I can drink it. It's like, nice. Because it reminds me of, oh, nice. You know, it was like an exchange, right? We had an exchange and then he gave me this and now I can drink it. If he would have given me meat, I would have said, I don't eat that. Probably the question is now, would it have the same effect if I would have just bought it? Or is it now, do I really like drinking it now because he gave it to me as a present? And maybe because I really like the feeling it gives me now because it was a present, and I start relating this feeling to the coffee. And then, I think, I always want to drink it now, and so I go and buy it. And then it doesn't create the same feeling, but now I'm hooked on drinking it because I think it gives me the feeling without realizing it actually doesn't. It was what I was doing while I drank my first coffee and how I felt then that gave me the feeling. I just related it to the coffee because I couldn't believe that this feeling would be coming out of me. And that's of course when it's quite complicated. So it actually isn't the coffee, it's the feeling I connect with drinking it. And so when I start to distance myself from the feeling that psychedelic substances or anything gives me, I can start learning to look for that feeling in me. And for that I have to stop smoking and using psychedelics in general for quite a while, once at least, maybe like 6 months. And then you just start figuring it out. How do I feel without them? Now I know how I feel with them. How do I feel without them? Right? And then you can try both again. Because now I could just keep drinking this. Like, maybe I just wanted water. That's a tough one to figure out. Did I really need to drink this? Did I really need to smoke all of this stuff? Could I have just done it without it? Well, it certainly made me feel more happy about it. But what's more happy? Like, what's happier? Yeah, maybe because I wanted all these things, and because I wanted all these things, it was hard, right, to try to do anything at all as long as I wanted all these things. And now I gave myself some of these things, I could do also other things that seemed a bit harder to do if I would want all of these other kinds of things. So yeah, anyway, kind of like this, something like that. So what you've been hearing now are just some of my thoughts. I think the best way of engaging with them is through my books. But I don't really know, right? But yeah, I've written them for a reason, and because I know how I do things, which is I don't control them, I just let them happen, and that's why, I'm just letting it happen. Whatever happens right now, like with my content, I just let it happen. Whatever happens in my life, I just have to let it happen. And that's, in the beginning, very scary, but it gets a bit more like, all right, we'll see where this is going. But I'm sure it's going to be great. Yeah, something like this, like, all right.